You know, and I know, and they know, and we go all in. And I know, they know, cause we go all in.
Man, look at here. I appreciate you, TP. But look, um, we talk technical difficulties galore. Um, half, ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the newest edition of What You've Been Missing. Maybe I'm too excited to talk about tonight because there's a lot been going on. We do this once every other week, just about now. You're now listening to the All Dressed Up Podcast. Your boy K Dizzle DC. To my man on my other side is Hef Streams. What up, Hef?
What's good, K Dizzle? How you doing, people?
I'm good, my man. How you feeling?
Man, I'm feeling great, man. It's the best time of the year for me. It's my favorite time. It's the NBA playoff season. So you know what I do. I like to watch games, but I didn't even tell you before we came on.
No,
Guess
you
what
didn't.
guess what I did this morning, bro?
What'd you do?
Went out and played basketball. Try to get my 25 back. Feeling like I was 25 again. Had the wrong shoes on, man. Tweaked my ankle. My foot. When I
You was
walked down, when I walked down the stairs to do the podcast tonight, man, it was a struggle, bro. That's why we were like 3 minutes
hey,
late.
hey, was you in church shoes, man? What's wrong with you?
What
You
up,
out there
Shanae?
playing
How you
church
doing,
shoes,
baby?
Nene? What's up, babe? What's
Might as
going
well
on?
have
You had
been.
on low tops? What's
Hey,
what
bro,
happened?
I thought I was Kobe. Rest in peace to Kobe, but I had some low tops on, man. I ain't built for no low tops. I had the audacity to be wearing some low tops, like some foam bubbles or some shit, and I made like a real hard move on my triple threat, and
your, your three-step move?
yeah, my ankle was like, no, sir, not this
Not
version,
today.
not this Marcus,
Not
no.
today. Oh, that's funny, man. That's
But yeah,
funny. Look,
it's a fun time of the year, bro.
it is a fun time of the year. It's the NBA playoffs. We're gonna dive in a little bit. This is all ADU podcast episode 78.
Mm.
FreakNik is about to be lit for 2023. That's a little bit of intro there. But we got a little bit going down. So before we run into it really quick, man, let's get real quick into these NBA playoffs, these play-in and these playoffs, man.
Mm.
Where you want to start? Because the way that it's looking right now, with this game on, I don't know what KD is doing or or the Phoenix Suns, but they getting beat right now
Yeah,
in a tough
Chris Paul's not trying to
way.
hear that. Chris
No,
Paul is not here for this foolishness.
no. So early, let me give you your early calls. Who you got early calls advancing to the next round?
So obviously today we had some mix-ups because a few players went down. Some big time players went down. Giannis banged his back up. We don't know how long he's gonna be out. But if he's out, man, I mean, I don't think the Bucks lose the series, but they definitely get pushed to probably, 6 games at least.
Mm,
Um, with Ja going down, I'm curious to see what is the extent of his injury. Did you see that shit?
yeah,
Man,
yeah.
I felt bad for him, man, because he's real athletic.
Hmm.
His body was like 6 feet in the air, and he came straight down on his fingers trying to break the fall.
Yeah.
And look bad. Hopefully, it's not as bad as it looked, because you definitely want to see a competitive series. You don't want to see
Hmm.
teams advance off of injuries. But if Ja's down, the Lakers, man, the
Who?
Lakers are getting Memphis up out of there.
Yeah, Lakers lucking up, staying in the race. They're
But did
lucking
you
up again.
see? Did you see Austin Reeves and Rui Hachimura today?
No, I did not. I did not.
Buddy, LeBron was the fourth leading scorer on the team today, and they won by 20.
Yeah, they did. They did win by a lot. Did they win by that? I think it was at least 15 or something like that.
Well, they
Something
ran a
crazy.
score up in the
They
end,
ran it
but
up.
Hachimura, Anthony Davis, and your boy Austin Reeves was out there looking like the white boy magic.
Shout out to the Washington Wizards for giving away good players. Um,
But you know
Shout out
what
to the
though?
Wizards for giving good players.
Before we even give the Wizards credit for that, you got to look at the coaches, on those teams that are there for development. Like the Lakers have some good developmental coaches over there, and
Shout
I
out,
think I think
shout,
when Achimura went over there, he took another step.
shout out to the Wizards for having poor development coaches. Whatever, I don't care what you say. Knicks and Cavs, like I said before, it's going to
Oh,
be a good. It's going to be a good series. Donovan Mitchell's lighting it up, but that defense for the Knicks is coming into play. Randall has some good shots going off. I think that's going to be an aggressive. That's going to be an aggressive
Mitchell,
matchup.
Donovan
Um,
Mitchell's got that effect, bro. He's got that.
uh,
He's got that turning on at any moment. I can give you 20 in one quarter effect.
Warrior Kings. Warrior
Mm.
Kings is looking pretty heated. So
Did you see the game?
I saw it. I saw
The
it.
the Aaron Fox boy was
Yeah, he came to
cooking.
work. He showed up for his little baby boy that was there. So it looked good. I mean, we finally got some good basketball going. I'll say that.
Yeah.
Finally got some good basketball. So it's good to see. It's really, really good to see because that's what we need. But look, moving on, really quick, because I'm gonna say it because I'm reading it, but one of these things I think is getting way too much traction is these AI voices doing all this new music out here.
Some
Okay.
weird stuff, man.
So we already know Chat GPT is taking off. A lot of people are acing their classes. Uh, all they got to do is write, you know, Chat BT write a 500-word essay on, economics in 1984, and it's writing a 500-word essay, and people are getting good grades. Where was this thing when I needed it most in the 90s? Where was this?
Wow.
Where was this thing? But really, you got AI. It's starting to do AI voices, and it's learning, and it's moving at a unbelievably fast rate, and it's fascinating and alarming at the same time, man. So,
Bro,
oh,
I heard Ariana Grande, I heard her voice on a Drake track.
hmm
And it was Drake's cadence and it was the lyrics, everything to a T,
hmm
but it was Ariana Grande's voice. And I said, this could change the whole game. It's
look,
scary though, man.
look, all we need now. I'm gonna say this: if we get a company that's called anything close to Skynet, it's a wrap. I think it's going to be good in some ways, but we also have to figure out the best way to regulate it moving forward because um, I don't know if it feels like almost people have never watched movies about robots getting smart, like
Yeah.
iRobot, Terminator, all these different ones tell you about the possibilities of the future, but everybody's like not even they're like, oh,
Well,
it's just movies. It's just movies.
it's the
Yeah, I
inevitable
keep playing.
it's the inevitable possibility of technology passing, human intelligence.
Y'all keep playing with Jesus, okay? he
And yeah, you're right about that, bro. But
finna come out here
do you
and get
think
thrown out.
do you think there's any positive out of like some of this AI stuff that we've been seeing, like the voice technology with the music, or do you think this is just kind of like obviously the first steps of something much more serious down the line?
Well, it's tough to say because I think for quantitative computing and understanding how things work, I think it's a great. It could be a large step forward in figuring out problems that would take us longer than it would a computer to do. The
Okay.
other the other side of it is, um, you see all the other stuff. You know the saying, believe half of what you see and half of what you hear. Now you can't do either. You
Wow.
can't really do either because you got faces being put onto other faces, you got voices being put on to other voices, and so it just muddies up the water a lot in a major way. So that phone call evidence now, this guy saying this on the phone or these texts, can't even is it them or is it Chat BT or some bot? You never know. So
Mm.
so look, technology is moving at a pace that we just got to pay attention to. Just hopefully, prayerfully, we make all the right decisions moving
You
forward.
could
So,
you can mess around and be on the phone and think you're talking to somebody and it's totally AI
oh man,
and never know it.
I mean, I wish.
Imagine getting. And I didn't mean to cut you
No,
off,
no,
but
no.
Imagine getting scammed like that, where you're doing some type of internet business transaction, and the person that you're communicating with, quote unquote, person is actually AI.
The only way it gets better is if I have to call Verizon, or if I have to call somebody like Capital One, and I'm actually talking to somebody to get me to who I need to talk to. That's it. That's all I care about it getting better. That's it. If you're gonna put the automated system in, just make it as smart as you can. Chat GPT. That's all I care about. So, um, but yeah, man, which way you want to go next? Because this, I'm looking at this list, bro, and it's like, oof,
Man, while
yo,
we take that segue and switch gears, let's just let everybody know who's coming in late that we are still on YouTube every first and third Sunday at 9 o'clock live. So please come on through. Check us out on Facebook. The Instagram channel's been jumping, man. A lot of fun interactions been going on daily with the posts on the All Dressed Up Podcast Instagram channel. And if you want to come through anytime live, obviously you see the number. The number's 301-857-1757 to join the conversation.
so look, while we segue into that, please preface this conversation that we about to have, the one that I read that I didn't see before. I'm gonna let you lead that into that, because that, I think that's a
Okay.
important conversation.
So, let's just get right to the question. Are babies, right? Little babies. Are babies the new commitment when it comes to relationships over marriage? Like, are we going right to the baby in the carriage and we skipping the whole marriage situation? Because I'm not sure. I'm actually I can't say that I'm not gonna be in a wedding in a few months. So people still getting married,
Hmm.
but the people that are getting married have been in a relationship for like 20 years. So I don't know if that really counts. But what you think, man?
So,
Because you've been married, you've been in the married life for a while. Do you think have you been seeing the younger generation behind us tend to have more kids now before even thinking to take that step?
mm, well, that's twofold, because you have
Or is
that.
it just a coincidence?
Our baby's a new commitment and no more marriage. No, I think,
Are people
man,
frowned upon as much as they used to be back in the day for having a
well, I
baby
haven't.
without?
It used to be called what? Children out of wedlock,
Yeah,
whatever that is, whatever wedlock is. Um,
right, exactly.
I think, our baby's still being used as the tie-in to marriage. I think the generations have gotten a little smarter, but also a little more reckless. I mean, they having babies, of course.
They're
Um,
having babies become fashionable at a certain point for a lot of these young kids because I mean you see a lot of babies popping on Instagram, a lot of young
Babies and baby
parents.
showers.
Yeah, a lot of gender reveals every other day. You know, is that the new thing?
No more marriage.
Mm,
Um, I think people are having babies and are understanding that they don't have to get married, and even though they're having babies, they may not. They understand that that person that they had a child with may not be the best person for them.
right.
So I don't think it's necessarily commitment. I just think it's the baby is the consequence of it's always a consequence of the actions, but um more so the person making better decisions as far as relationship wise. Now, usually that should come first before you decide to do that. Usually, but we're just living in such a reckless era that, like you said, sometimes
Well, see,
babies can be just a thing to that are fashionable.
you just said it though. You said we live in such a reckless era, and it's like a lot of these babies that pop up. Like, let me give you an example because y'all probably like, what the hell is Marcus talking about? What is Hef talking about tonight? But like, you'll be chilling, and all of a sudden you'll get a message talking about, hey, can you come to my gender reveal
Hmm?
with my new baby? And I didn't even know that this friend or relative was in a relationship. And I'd be like, oh, okay. I'll come to the party if I'm not working, but it's kind of wild because it's like, well, when did you, when did you kind of get in the situation that you're in? But I just, I mind my business and just, just keep it moving. But it'll be like that. You'll get invited to a gender reveal or a baby shower, and you didn't even know that that person was in a relationship with somebody.
Facts. More babies being born is a byproduct hookup mentality. Is it? Yeah. Is
Is
it
that
the
is that is that is that this generation's mentality? Is the 2000 baby generation a hookup generation? They got that hookup
is
culture
it?
mentality.
That's it. That's correct. Is is it the Netflix and chill phenomenon?
Mm,
Is it the Netflix and chill phenomenon? Is it the repercussions of a
that's a
Netflix and
good
chill
question,
phenomenon?
K Dizzle. That's
You
a
know.
hell of a question,
So what the app with the app? Yes, it is.
bro.
Um, you know, does having a child still require marriage? Are there people still that still believe that still require marriage?
Mm, it's a good question, man. Like we think about it, we throw it out there because people still getting married. You know, personally, I got kids, and I got a baby with my girl, and I'm not technically married yet,
Hmm.
but we live the married type lifestyle. We live together. We break bread and spend money together. But at the end of the day, is marriage just the business of everything else?
So the
And these
question,
kids aren't really focusing on that part.
I'll throw this question out to you. Uh, yeah. The family, hold on. The family dynamic has evolved over the years. Family cohesion is slowly disintegrating.
Mm.
With the family cohesion disintegrating, along goes the basic foundation of marriage and raising a family with both parents in the household. Holy
And see,
shits nibbles, Eric.
that's
So
a
look,
real serious line when he says with the family cohesion disintegrating. Like, is that the case?
well, you got to look at it. Are you saying, look,
I'm not disagreeing with him. I'm just asking, is it that bad right now?
well, it's tough. You got a lot of. I know it's going to sound like a broken record, because the generation before said it. Babies raising babies. Well, we all babies raising babies. We don't know until we know. But the truth of the matter is, um, our like the question says, are babies a new fashion? Are they doing it? Are they doing it to have those gender reveals or use it for social media and
Right.
socialize it in that nature? um family cohesion disintegrating happens when you don't have strong family values instilled within your family. If and it's tough because if hmm, it's tough because I was raised by a single parent, not by default, but because of circumstance. It wasn't because of relationship issues. It was because of death. There's some that have been single parent families because of relationship issues, and um, did that break down for me the importance of family? Absolutely not. I can say the same thing for some friends that have been in single parent relationships, single parent homes, that say, did it break down the importance for them? No. um but then again, like you said, like Eric is saying, like Cassius is saying, what holds value to you may not hold value to everybody else.
Very true.
And when you have it, you have a lot more people not having the same issues or having similar issues. How many kids these days can say they all slept on the floor together at grandma's house? Like, none, none. I know my
No,
kids ain't
it's a
none.
different time, man.
It's a different time, but
It's
that grandma's house becomes, auntie's house or uncle's house or whatever the case may be. It's yeah, I know for sure. But look, um, it's hard. It's hard because you so many young kids are having babies at a younger age, and we're not talking like, for us, young age was 16, 17. We're talking 13, 14. Kids,
but is it more so because they just know in their head the way the system's rigged, they'll be able to still pull it off. They'll still be able to do what they need to do, or is this generation really just having these kids in pure good faith and still thinking that they're going to be able to do everything that they want to do, even though they have a child at 15, 16, 17 years old. But
No.
like you said, it's kind of reckless though. Like you see a lot of you
we
see,
saying it's reckless now, but we was uh uh promoting those activities in our reckless
but I
behaviors in
think,
those years as
but I
well.
think back then though it was more frowned upon. I really do. I think even though it happened, like
How so they
obviously,
frowning upon it now? I
I
think
know I feel you, but I think back then it wasn't as common for everybody to be parading babies like babies having babies like what you see online.
mhm.
That's all I'm saying. I think maybe because we got the social media aspect of it, it's just so prevalent now.
Are we a dying breed? Are we a dying breed? God damn. Are we a dying breed? I, um,
I just think a lot of our generation doesn't hold the younger generation accountable for any of those values that we came up on. I think at a certain time we just kind of put our hands up and was like, let them do them. And in certain instances, by all means, they should be able to do them. But generational tradition has to get passed down within generation. You got to hold each other accountable. Cassius
mm,
Bay says, "Do you guys feel like social media has had an effect on family cohesion?" I do for sure.
freaking lutely.
let's talk
Absolutely freaking
about
lutely.
let's talk about the throw your baby or throw your kid the iPad parenting.
Oof.
That right there, in my opinion, is the first step to disintegration because you're automatically putting your child in a bubble
Hmm.
because they're over there in their own world on an iPad for 6 or 7 hours doing whatever they're doing, as opposed to getting those values taught from the parent.
Yeah.
How
So,
many parents are still reading books to their children?
mm, mm. So I've never, I do not remember the last time I was at a table, even going out to eat, and the phones were not out. Phones were not out unless we requested them to be put away. So,
What happened to the family dinner time?
yeah, yeah. I mean, family, it does because um, it brings you together. It gives you access, but it also separates you because uh, even in my household, I know I got 4 girls. As soon as we come home, everybody goes to their little corners and goes on their phones, and we don't see them until either they're hungry or they want to do something, when they have questions, or they
Back
go to the
to your
bathroom, get
corner.
up.
Back to
Then
your
they go back
corner.
to the corner, go back on the phone, they pick it up, and then go, you know, and that's it. So does it affect family cohesion? Absolutely. Absolutely. Social media does control all. It does. It affects everything you do. You have to make it a point to make sure that you aren't that you put in those time to say, okay, put your phones down, or do those activities so that it takes them away from having that 100% of the time. So you do spend some time together.
We talked a
And
little
so,
bit about the whole TikTok phenomenon last episode.
yeah, yeah, we did. But your question on baby's new commitment, children complicate things in such a way that even 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 when it's a positive situation, it complicates things because um now, even let's say you're in a relationship with a person that's together and you guys are doing okay, y- um how you raise your child is different from how they want to raise the child. And
hundred
so
percent.
so that in itself, children just complicate a lot things of that relationship. And um what makes it even more difficult is when the two people are no longer together. The parenting, the social aspect of it, and everything else that goes in between to it. So um it's a super loaded question. I mean, social media has a huge impact on family cohesion. Um, babies
But
have.
there,
Go ahead.
but there's also been on the low an uptick in co-parenting. I think the level of co-parenting that exists probably is underrated. I know there's some people that I know, and even like some of my relatives, some of my folks, they're not
Mhm.
together with their child's parent, but they still manage a good, healthy relationship for the child.
So
So what I'm saying is, are you holding it against these kids if they're having babies and not getting married, but they're starting to master the ability to co-parent? Can you co-parent and not have that family cohesion,
Mm,
or still
mm.
have that family cohesion?
So look, so what's crazy is that the way the question that you just asked, because I got a buddy, he's back, he's back there. And look, anytime you guys want to come in, hit the link. If you want to say something, 301-857-1757.
It's a convenient segue, huh?
It's a super convenient segue because my boy can speak on this question. And let me pull it right in here. Hey, Sean, my man T, Sean said, what up, boy?
What's going on, guys? How you doing?
Oh man. So did you hear the
What's up,
question?
man?
I was in between the setup, so what was the
So,
question that was asked?
go ahead, answer that question.
Can first off, I was kind of touching on the uptick, I think, in co-parenting.
Mhm.
And we were talking about family cohesion, and I was asking the question, can you still have, I guess, that successful level of family cohesion when you're co-parenting?
That's tricky. Uh, well, first, thanks for having me, guys. You
Of
know,
course.
pretty awesome, and definitely great conversation and topic to bring up here. I think it's a mix of both. Can it? Yes. But that comes with maturity. And I think that you guys were touching on this earlier today about the younger generation and how we feel the attachment is with how people are having babies, and is the marriage part of it still working? And obviously we have to, us playing our role and talking with the younger generation. I get it, but it goes both ways. I'll give you a
Mhm.
little bit about my view of it and my experience. I was married, and I had a child during marriage. Our marriage didn't work out. I um, go into another relationship, so about a couple years later, and then I had a 7-year relationship, similar to what you were just saying you have, and you're getting ready to go into marriage here shortly. And I was doing the same, but the baby came before the marriage, and I can tell you, not to get into too deep of stuff, but I have two different types of worlds when it comes to how I co-parent with both of my children's mother, um, their mothers, and having one hand being able to co-parent like it's the best thing ever. Like, I do believe that with my ex-wife, it's almost like clockwork because all we care about is our daughter.
Mhm.
And then on the other hand, you will have experiences where you're there's a lot of emotions behind it where you're not putting the child first, and that's where I believe you can have a mix up in communication with how you co-parent. You don't end up co-parenting; you end up parallel parenting, if that means you're parenting in your household, not co-parenting together.
Now, when you say parallel parenting, that in itself is uh is friction because if you're it's, I like how you phrased that. I know you got the politics going on. Parallel parenting just means I'm parenting this way, you're parenting that way. But in so many facets, they're always going to bump heads. And part of that is that because of the relationship, because of the relationship between you guys, and and how much, because you have a unique situation where you got both ends of the spectrum. So you got one where it's great where it works, and then the other one where it doesn't work as great. So um how is it navigating that when the co-parenting isn't always always even keel?
Just focusing on what's best for the child and things you can control on your end.
For sure.
With me, I can only control making sure that my son is getting all of me and everything that he needs without it being any chemistry or any you know feeling towards of how um, the other makes me feel. I leave
Hmm.
my emotions out of it, which helps me be a better parent for my son.
Hmm.
And eventually, it's going to take some time because this is all pretty new. But the last year and a half, it's been a struggle. But eventually, she'll get into that zone. I'm just a little different. You know, uh, I'm a different machine and different monster. But at the end of the day, I don't expect people to be on the same page. But You're going to have friction. You're going to have issues. Everybody's situation is different. As long as everybody has the, if people that have kids, if you just put the main focus of putting your kid as priority first, um,
Mhm.
everything around starts to mesh and work well, and the communication will hopefully get better.
All right. So since Wild Boar said that we are part of a dying breed, I want to ask you a question. When you guys had the child together, right, and you weren't married, did you feel like a push or almost a necessity to move towards marriage because of the child?
Well, this is being married is important.
Right.
That should be priority
Right.
before having a baby. Period.
Right.
However, I understand there are times where it's just you don't have a choice. You don't. We may have made mistakes where, you weren't wearing protection or whatever it may be, and you
You
just
was funning it up, which is what we do.
you
Netflix
have a
and chill.
baby.
Right.
That doesn't mean anything. That happens.
Hmm.
And then sometimes, in my case, marriage was important and it was on the forefront and it needed to happen. Me personally, yes, it was pressure. Like, well, I want
Okay.
a kid, I want a kid, I want a kid. And when it happened before the baby, when we make decisions together,
Hmm.
is what it is. It was pressure,
Yeah.
you know. But at the end of the day, we knew it was something that we knew we wanted anyway.
Right.
But I did. I don't. I look back on everything's hindsight 2020, right?
Right.
Um, but I do believe marriage is very important for it to be in the forefront because
Hmm.
without God in the household, there is going to be friction and there's going to be times where you're going to be tested. And if He's not present, it will be shown.
Right.
I got a quick question too.
Go ahead.
Go ahead, Kados. You started.
No, no, no. I was just going to make a point because that's the difference. Because if you remember our parents' generation, they were almost forced because they felt like if you guys got a baby, you got to get married. You have to get married. It was almost like, and that's why uh, a lot of our parents and our grandparents were married and stayed in their relationship for as long as they did. And
Mhm.
so it is the generations growing and kind of growing out of that. Um, Sometimes you can say yes, it was somewhat of a generational curse because people were staying in unhealthy relationships for extended periods of time just because they felt it was necessary because they had children together. So, like I said, it's a growth thing, but it's also kind of losing its importance, which actually goes back to what Cassius said, kind of damages the family cohesion in the long run, right? Because we just got to figure out how to help our kids make better decisions. But
Right.
Go ahead. No, go ahead. Go ahead.
go ahead. Hef.
I wanted to ask Sean a question because he touched on some phenomenal points. And my question for you is, how much personal sacrifice have you made to get the best results of your situation in co-parenting? And this is kind of twofold. Do you have any types of resentment when you see your partner or your previous partner not make those sacrifices?
I mean, that's a perfect question.
Not to put you on the spot, but I know you
All
could
right.
probably answer that for me.
I mean, those questions
Ooh.
that you ask for everybody, man, it's a big deal. Um, the first part of that, I think both parents are going to have some level of sacrifice, and there's going to be a lot of that, especially when you're not in the same household. Because
Mhm.
I think everyone, I don't care who you are, they really truly want to raise a family together. I don't think anybody is just having babies and just saying, "Hey, I'm going to wait for a couple of years and go for the bag and go ahead and plan my escape route." I don't think that is heavy in our society. We hear it because we see it. Social media plants it. It starts to go around, but I don't really think that's the key, the things that's going on this day and age. But I do know that there's a mentality that's a little different than our old school mentality. And I'll answer the second question next, but I think you have a lot more of the generation where I don't need a woman or I don't need a man mentality.
Oof.
That's the difference. Because
Oof.
here's the thing: our grandparents were going through the same struggles we went through. However, that woman could not leave the household. He can treat her like crap. She won't leave because where's she going to go? You're going back in the grandparents' age where your women didn't even have jobs. There's nothing you can do. So
Oof.
what are you going to do? You have to
Yeah.
stay. But what happened with that, with them staying put, staying strong, went through the struggle together, and we look back on them and say, man, I want to have a relationship just like how you guys did. But we don't know what they truly went through. And back then, they didn't speak outside of their house. There was
Right.
none of this social media, picking up the phone calls, SOS messages. That didn't exist. It stayed in the household. So that's a part we have to play into as well. And I think the second part of the question you asked was, do I have any resentment? I do not. Um, I don't, because when you're truly happy, it doesn't matter. If you're happy
Yeah.
with where you are with yourself and happy about yourself and how you've grown as an individual and and if your child is in a good state, I have no reason to have any resentment. Even if I'm the victim, it doesn't
Mhm.
matter. It doesn't matter who's victim, who's at fault, it doesn't matter. As long as the child is first and the child is in good hands, I hold no resentment unless my child is in harm's way.
Mm.
Strong. Hey, 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 you come in
Thank you
and
for that,
drop
man.
some
That's a very,
gems.
very, very deep answer, man.
Drop,
Appreciate it.
drop some gems. So how do you so just one more question. How do you deal with if the other person isn't happy? If they unhappy about your happiness? Because that I mean that's part of the cause of the parallel parenting. But how
That's the repercussions of the parallel
that's
parenting.
repercussions. Is it repercussions? I think the point that you made as far as the growth, the unmeasurable growth of natural independence. I don't need you, you don't need me. Erodes that importance of that family cohesion, right? Um,
And
but how do you?
that is more of a modern phenomenon.
That is more of a modern phenomenon.
This independent everybody type mantra.
Yeah, and so, but more importantly, like say, how do you deal with that if you have the other half still unhappy or unresolved? Do you just ignore it? Do you just ignore it? Because if you ignore it, then that can create issues, or do you just or I don't know what the part you just accept it.
That's the part, especially if you're someone, a man or woman that has good character,
Hmm.
you would hate to hear things that are being said about you or
Right,
about how things may go. And
right.
that is the hard part, trying to hold back of, because we can all say we've got receipts, let me show you a
Right.
thing or two. And then you are now playing that battle along with them. And that's when
Hmm.
you got to step back.
Yeah.
Everybody goes through their healing process different,
Hmm.
and expect people are hurt. You can't always think that there's only one person hurting. It's both.
Right.
So a relationship like this, especially if you talking about long-term relationships, which I'm hoping that's what it would be if anybody that has children, everybody handles the situation and breakup differently. The the feel of someone's happiness may trigger someone else. It's going to happen. This is how big the trigger will be. You just can't feed into it. The more you feed into it, the more fuel you give it, and you carry on. It carries on for long periods of time. So just it's harder. It's easier said than done. Just know it's going to happen. The resentment's going to be there. They're not going to be happy. Just share less information. Don't have to spread it around, and just live your life. Just live your life knowing that this person's not going to be happy with you. As long as the kid is not in harm's way and not
Right.
being used as a tool, that's a different conversation
Whole different
all on
conversation.
its own.
Whole different conversation.
Yep.
You got any more, Hef?
Man,
He
I tell
can.
you, Sean, I gotta thank you for coming through, bro. You really did address these questions head on and really educated me, man, because a lot of these topics are tough. People are dealing with it every day, don't really know how to handle it. And I'm taking away like your ultimate message seems to be always have the child first, you know?
100%.
And
Yep.
that's what it is, man. So where can people find you, Sean? If you don't have anything else, K Dizzle.
No, I don't, man. Look, we can other than the Ivory Tower. I mean, this is the man, the myth, and the legend, aka TP. We go back as long as Pumas and Shell Toast, man. I
There you
appreciate you
go.
sliding through.
Yeah,
Uh,
man.
and we'll get on to it, man. Look, I'm gonna let you go, and look, if you want to come back on, because it's or you want to hang out, because this next topic
Yeah.
I hang out.
is oh
Oh,
man,
let's
look,
do it.
well
Let's do
look at here, bro. So, well, let me roll right into this, okay? Because the big hoopla over the last week and a half,
it.
over the last week and a half, is it's part of the episode name, right? And Cassius, I know you're gonna chime in, my guy. Look, FreakNik documentary on Hulu is dropping soon, right? We only got a couple weeks. We a couple weeks away from somebody aunties or somebody mamas or somebody, hey, or somebody's dad, somebody grandpa, somebody uncle fitting to be on TV talking hella crazy. We don't know where they at right now. They could be in the pulpit. They could be somewhere major. So you scared to watch?
Somebody that converted these old
Hey, look.
camcorder
Hey, look.
tapes.
I had, I had, I have some of my nieces and nephews reached out. I was like, I was too young for that. I wasn't going out. You tripping? I was too young for that. Hey, look. I saw somebody say if Irvin's had cameras, if Irvin's had
Man,
cameras, we all be locked up. But look, so the coming repercussions, right, of people that would be on those, and that goes kind of into a little bit what we talked about last week, but more importantly, the coming repercussions of that. What does your digital footprint, which is that stuff wasn't digital, now it's going to become digital, right? Now it's going to live in the perpetuity. Things that we on VHS. I seen somebody showed a VHS a video of Freaknik '93, and they were like, "Oh snap!" I was like, "You need a TV and a VCR to watch that, because you can't. Ain't there's no TV with those with the red, white, and yellows, yellow connections anymore. The AV, the right and left. But what does your digital footprint say about you? Should everything be used against you? Now, since you guess, I'm gonna let you answer that question
damn.
first. Should everything on your digital footprint be used against you?
Listen, I'm laughing because this fool Kermit is always throwing a photo of me. This photo of me from like 10 years ago when me and him used to have little battles back and forth. And I'm in a different. I'm not the old Sean from 10 years ago, 15 years ago. I'm in a professional little network here, and this man showing a photo of me with a. I had like a dress on.
He had a dress on.
I was doing a skit. I was doing a skit. But anyway, the
You
point
gonna
I'm
make me
making is
find that picture?
the digital footprint of everything. I don't know, man. I mean, we're talking 30 years ago. You
Yeah.
know, it's but you
Is
know
there a
what?
statute of limitations?
Well, you want to start talking about going to court? Yeah. Yeah, I don't know. I mean, that's a tough one, especially with what's going to be on here. All decides on what they're going to show on here. But we're going to see a lot of our aunties and uncles up on there. I can tell you that right now.
Should it be held against you? Because that's the major question, right? Um, this stuff is going to now come in perpetuity. You're going to have a lot of people in a lot of different areas. Like I said, 30 years. But then when you talk about that, right? We say, I don't know. Yeah, he's
Oh
Sean smile
man.
like it's a
Oh,
possibility of him. Photo express exactly, my guy. You lucky I can't find this picture. But yeah, so we were doing a bunch of look. I already know there's going to be a certain ceiling. The only way for me to get to the next level, I got to go into entertainment, plain and simple, so they can brush it off. Other than that, I'm not sure. Who knows? But look, should you hold that stuff against that person? So when we talk about that, we're just talking about the digital footprint stuff now. We just had like multiple examples of things happening that in way long ago, right? Whether they be right or wrong, um, whether they be right or wrong, people are going to hold them to that forever, right? Um, j- I akin it to this. If you go to a job interview, right? One of the things that's most important, uh, and it's now more than ever, is what your digital footprint is now. You'll be hard pressed to go to a professional area or corporation, apply for an interview, right? Now that correct me if I'm wrong, Sean. Apply for an interview, have the interview, do good on it, and then go back and check your your social media
Your
footprint,
highlight tape.
your highlight film, your highlight tape, and you're a renowned racist. How does that, or you were a renowned racist, you could be reformed, all your new stuff says that, but this stuff back here, because we understand how the internet works, right? The internet
Yeah.
doesn't care who you are right now. They care about what you said 17 years in 2000 what 3, when Twitter first popped off, what you were saying then. They don't care about it. They want to pull that back onto you. What's up, James? Say Drunk says, I'm old here. I see my wife getting trained on Hulu. She gotta go.
Shout out to Drunk, man. And we ain't seen Drunk in a while. So thanks for coming back on through, bro.
If you see your wife getting trained on Hulu, she gotta go. That was 30 years ago, my guy. That's cold blood. You can't kick her out.
But
But
can
look,
you imagine seeing grandma
no,
on a FreakNik documentary, and you're
no.
like 12 years old now, and you're like, what's FreakNik, Granny?
Sure.
That's serious.
But that question stands still. How does that affect them, right?
You know,
Is that fair?
I think it's just a level. You were bringing up the example of hiring, right?
Right.
Yeah, so if I am just take our business for example. If me hiring someone that may be a $15-18 an hour employee, that may not be that big of a difference. It depends on how much is found and what's seen.
Right.
Somebody like myself being an executive of a company, there's no way in hell that I will be hired in a position. It just won't happen.
Exactly.
Because it's too much of a risk for a president to hire me to be an executive of his company and then find out these things later. It is too much of a risk.
Right.
So I guess to answer your question, it just depends on who and the status and the levels. And we already see it with the cancel culture that's out here today. We also see it in normal stuff.
Mm-hmm.
Governor Greg Abbott in Texas is going to was going to what was he doing with the Black Lives Matter protester that killed somebody?
Oh, he was going to pardon him.
He was going to pardon him, and he still may. But what some tweets came out, and
some text came out.
Text came out. Yeah,
text came out. Talking about he wanted to kill some. Yeah,
he felt about black people. Now, even though it was already a smokescreen issue anyway, we shouldn't even be talking about it. But even now, with that being an issue, I mean, this stuff follows you. You want to have to. I think that what we do with our digital footprint, it does mean everything. And does that mean we have to be judged and held accountable? It just depends on who you are and what you're doing.
Right. Like you said, Cash said, it was impossible for them 100% impossible for them to think ever imagine that technology would be where it is today. And those situations have to be explained. It would be unfair to hold people accountable, but that's not going to stop it from happening. It just what it is. People are going to look back into those things in the past and see what it is. But is it fair? Absolutely not. Like you said, your digital footprint is important because it, like you just mentioned, it could stop you from moving to certain levels within whatever industry you're in because of things that may have happened or things you may have done in the past. And so, with that being said, what do you say to the 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14-year-old that's on the internet now that's doing what they're doing? What do you say to them now, about the future? Because we were all at one point surrounded by people we know before we were of legal age with a cup of alcohol. Right, with a cup of alcohol or something. And we were all at that point at that age we were given that, and we did or we didn't do it out of either peer pressure or we felt we wanted to do it at that time or at that moment because we were around friends. It could be alcohol, it could be weed, it could be whatever it is. Now that situation can be recorded and live in perpetuity. And the crazy part is it can live in perpetuity on someone's phone until you get to where you're going. Until you get to where you go. It could be 20 years from now. Be 20 years. It could be sitting on somebody's Google Drive. There's so many women with offs now that 2 generations from now, everybody mama gonna have news gonna be available. Yeah, well, OnlyFans is a dangerous place.
The scary part is, are these kids already desensitized to where they're not going to really care about what they're going to be seeing as far as 20 years from now, what they did online? because it's so everybody's going viral.
Ugh.
Hmm.
It's ugly. I mean, the same way that we should look at FreakNik, and I'm copying the post. The same way they should look at FreakNik is the same way they should look at Girls Gone Wild, and that was accepted. FreakNik was a thing that was done at HBCUs, right? It was done. It was done kind of like
It was probably more organic than Girls Gone Wild.
Girls Gone Wild was a whole business
Was a
with
production.
tour buses and everything else. So um, kind of like God, I'm gonna get fried for not even remembering this. But what help me out? What is the week that all HBCUs play? Have their tournament. CIAA, right? Big thing for HBCUs. They North Carolina or wherever they have it at that time. They go down, they hang out, they have parties. All ages, all ranges, right? Um, that is one of the things that is socially done by us. Freaknik was one of those things that was socially done by us at that time where Uncle Luke was Uncle Luke, and that was what it was, right? So now those things have what nothing but a watered down Freaknik. I'm gonna ask you a question in a second, James, but um, when those recordings start coming out, which they do, which they will, um, what happens then? What really happens then? If we start doing because the way that it's looking is like if you're not if you ever want to move to a certain level, right, you have to be 100% mindful of what your digital footprint is. If you give no f's for real, give no fucks where you are, then you're good. You can just do what you want. Is that, like you said, it's a risk for the company, but is that also fair to you if you're a qualified individual? Crickets.
Yeah, but your level of discernment is also going to be a way you can be judged as well. Because if I'm a good candidate for that position, I shouldn't have all that shit though. You would think, right? In a perfect world.
In a perfect world.
But 9 times out of 10, like Sean said, you're gonna go back and you're gonna have that risk factor. You know what I'm saying? Of if you don't have this person pegged to a T,
Hmm.
you put him in a position of running your company. I just saw a COO, not to mention names, get hired and get fired within 3 months of a major company.
Hmm.
And that just tells me you didn't do your homework. And imagine if all the other shit came out. You know what I'm saying? So you got to be careful. And the repercussions are still pretty heavy, I think. But but yeah,
That's tough. That's big tough. So I think that the moral of the story is, but how do you tell that to kids now? How do you tell it to
they
kids
don't
now?
care.
How do
They
you how
don't.
do you help them? How do you help them now? Because I don't. I, LinkedIn LinkedIn won't be there when I try to get there.
I mean, you
You
have
know,
to educate, you have to lead by example, but
but it's too late.
you have to teach the best way you can to be able to make that decision.
I think it may wind up being in the hands of one's personal opinion of you and your alleged recorded infraction. Yes, it is, but it's up to them. The first things first. If you're a president or executive of a company, the first thing you're going to do is protect the company, hands down. And if you are seen in any way, shape, form, or fashion as a possibility of being a liability to the reputation of that company, then they will not put you in those positions where you could become a liability. Am I right or wrong?
Right.
100% right. So that in turn affects your growth. And I think the kids are in a lot of shock moving forward. Um, that as they grow up and they change as people and become who they're going to be. How that stuff, it's gonna really affect them in the future. Really, really affect them in the future. Because imagine 15 years from now. Imagine 15 years from now. Um, they finish college, right? They go to a position, they get their master's, doctor, whatever the case may be. They go to a corporation for an executive position, and the corporation does their homework, and they go back and see that they had a TikTok when they were 14 or 15 of dancing and running from the cops.
Hmm.
You know what I'm saying? Dancing in public places and running from the police because they dance in public places. And the company could say that could be seen as frowned upon. How devastating is how I'm just using something as small as mine. I know the company's gonna do what they feel is right for them. Whatever it is they do. It don't even matter. Yeah, at that point. We just gonna say they're gonna say, well, they're not gonna know that, but let's say it comes out to that, then it becomes, oh, now it's going to be a social media thing where they're try to put pressure on them to hire that person because they found out that's why they didn't hire him. Now, so it's all crazy. What happened to principles, integrity, and leadership? How is it? How is it too late? No, it's not too late. What we're saying is, um, if your children or you or yourself are engaged in social media, and you can even like a post, right? You can like a post that, gosh, what's my man that just with Kyrie Irving? Kyrie Irving is a great example of, he cut and paste a picture, right? That almost ended his career. Am I lying?
Cost
Cut and
him
paste,
millions of dollars and
cost him
almost.
millions of dollars. He cut and pasted a picture, and it wasn't what he said or he did. It was the insinuation of said picture, what people thought it to be, even though it may not be in the context that he was thinking. But it cost him millions and millions of dollars.
And it had no,
Millions and millions of dollars.
and it had no caption,
It
so
had no
it was the
caption.
act. The act itself cost him millions of dollars.
so so it was an interpretation of a picture that he saw one thing and everybody else saw something totally different.
Follow the money. It's two different spectrums here. You know, these NBA, them making their push with Kyrie, right? I know this is not the topic, but this example is perfect. Using how the NBA structured and shut everything down. Why were they so involved so quick? And why did the team get involved so quick? And why did the suspensions come out so quick? Well, there's one thing that comes in mind is how much money is the organization, the association going to lose based off this because of the money that gets funneled back into this, uh, the advertisements, the commercials, the branding, everything that's gone into play. People who have threatened to stop paying their money, now they have to react. That doesn't really work in the political world, as you can see, because I don't care who you are. I mean, you can be the president of the United States and do exactly what Kyrie's doing, and you just get passed off like it's nothing. So it just depends on who's running at the top and
That's
how that
it.
moves. I
That's it.
mean,
I
Yeah,
mean, at the end of the day, he was an employee, and no matter how much revenue he makes that team, what he did offended the people who had the power to move that quick, like you just said. Even when it came down to the Celtics coach, back it up a few months when it came to Udoka, they
yeah.
moved quick. They
They moved.
exposed that whole
Bam.
situation
didn't even
quickly.
didn't even
Email
tell Nia,
Udoka.
didn't even
Nope.
tell Nia about it.
And that was because of who he offended. Again, people who were in control.
hmm
So yeah,
Okay, Cash says best. There's a lot of societal norms these days that once would land one in jail at worst, or keep one from gainful employment at the
at the
least.
least.
And that goes. We're talking about digital footprint, and how it affects you, and should it be held over you. We could. I used the same analogy before as, if you are a convicted felon, and you serve your time and you come out, should that be held over you for the same way? It's so parallel to that in the same aspect, as whereas opportunities are taken away because of mistakes that you've made. And so you just got to be careful when you're doing all that. And we have to be able to teach those that do not know, or those that are unaware, to make sure to be mindful of your digital footprint and have the understanding that, hey, if you're going to do this, understand where it will take you, where it won't take you.
Well,
And you
how do you do that, Kate Dizzle, and write the code of conduct like with your kids? Like, how do you write the rule book of embracing your digital footprint? But because there's no rule book, there's no blueprint.
there's no rule book. There is a and I'm gonna use James' words. There is there's integrity, and there is let me find it. What we said integrity, principles, and leadership. And the only way they can learn that is by you giving that information, knowledge, and helping them understand the importance of what they put out is going to have an everlasting effect on everything they do moving forward. The same way we tell them, hey, if you decide to if you smoke or if you drink, those have everlasting effects. If you decide to do this and do this and not do that, those have everlasting effects. If you don't do your work in school, ninth and 10th grade, which is so important to get into college, if you struggle during those times or don't pay attention, that can affect you in the future. The same way that we have to show them the principles and ethics and make sure they're doing the right things and making the right choices, um, is how we kind of counteract and make sure that they're protecting that. If we don't have the conversation of what it can do and what it can't do for you, then they are lost like all the rest and fall into that trap where it could damage them later, and it could just follow them through life. It's unfortunate. It's sad because we grew up with the luxury of not having to worry about that. Or so or so we thought with FreakNik coming
Yeah.
back in the forefront. But they live in such an a now world that because that's going to live in perpetuity, they got to be super conscious of that. And the only way that they know is by us learning and teaching them and making sure they are aware, they are being 100% aware. And
Especially combating the fact that these kids are so impressionable because you're seeing so many influencers perpetuating this lifestyle of not giving a fuck about their digital footprint and still living the best lives.
well, that's because
So
that's because they're content creators and they make money off of doing that. And if you don't this if you choose not to do that and not become a content creator, then you don't have those same freedoms. One of the things I try to teach my kids as much as possible, because I say, hey, look, if you really want to do something, you really want to have your freedom, create content, be a content creator. That way, you control what you do, you control your time, you control your energy and your efforts, but it's going to take work. That way, you don't have to go see anybody else to generate income. You generate stuff on your own, and that goes into perpetuity. If you really want real freedom, be a content creator, so you don't have to work for anybody else. Write your own check. That's the only way that you'll be able to really live and do whatever you really want outside of having to go and 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 work for somebody else. My father always told me the you ever want to make what you believe you're worth, then write your own check.
mm,
Write your own check. So we have to admit that social media has more of an impression on our kids than we as parents do. Not all of us, but most of us, unfortunately. And that comes into play if you are not involved in your child's life as much as you should be. That's true if you're not involved in your child's life as much as you should be. We look, stirring heart, really good conversation. We don't
covered a
chop that
lot
up.
in
Covered a lot.
45 minutes, man.
Was that 45 minutes? That's a
Just
long.
those topics. The
Just those
show was
topics
about an
alone.
hour. Yeah.
But look, man, we talking about FreakNik, common repercussions, digital footprint is super important. Teach your kids and teach your friends and family. Teach your auntie that don't know how and actually get on there and record herself saying some crazy stuff. Okay. To make sure that that it is important that they watch what they do. And Sean, I promise you, I'll try to limit the amount of times that I share that picture. It's just so freaking hilarious every time it
Uh,
comes up. Every time I see it on my memories, it's hilarious. But that was back when dubstep was major. The dubstep's major. Babies are a product of the Netflix and chill generation. Uh, they no longer require marriage. They should not require marriage.
Get married for what? Is what they're
But
saying.
we should be teaching kids how to make better decisions. For the love of money is the root of all kinds of evil. Some people eager for money have wandered from faith and pierced themselves with many griefs. Yes, it's not money itself. It's always the love of money. It's always the love of money. Um, be mindful of AI. Definitely we talked about that too.
Mm.
Chat GPT. There's some good and there's a lot more bad than good. We just got to focus on the good and just figure out the best way to regulate it. Sean, one of the examples that I gave was if I was in high school, I would have typed in, "Hey, ChatGPT, write me a 600-word essay on economics in Saudi Arabia." and I'm good to go. I'm good. That doesn't teach me anything, but it gets me through class. But the kids, who's using that? Who knows?
Hey man, be careful who you're talking to because it might just be AI on the other end of that conversation.
You can no longer believe half of what you hear or half what you see. Don't believe it. Don't believe it at all. Just be a skeptic. Just don't be a skeptic because everybody's voice is interchangeable and everybody's face can be put on somebody else's. That's just how it works. Look,
Preach.
Sean, I love you, man. Appreciate you sliding through, bro. Coming with the great intuitive knowledge, especially on the parts of it was like right on time. The segue you got impeccable timing, man. Appreciate you. We're here every first and third Sunday, man. Don't be a stranger. Don't be a stranger.
I mean, if I'm invited, I'm coming through.
Oh, for sure.
100%.
For sure.
Always welcome back, Sean. Phenomenal episode, man.
Love you, bro. We're gonna go and do the tell them where to find us, my guy.
Man, first and foremost, please come find us on YouTube each and every first and third Sunday night at 9 o'clock. The Instagram channel is popping, the All Dressed Up Podcast IG channel, where you can follow us, talk with us, give us ideas on what we can talk about on Sundays. And just like you guys know, we love you too, Shanae. You can always chime in and text us when we do go live because that's what we like to do, man.
Lock that number.
We like to involve our people.
Lock that number in.
Sean came through with some shit though, man. I really appreciated that.
Cassius came through. My man E came through with a lot of knowledge, information. James came through. Wow, boy, I appreciate y'all. Y'all got any ideas for any shows? Submit it to alldresseduppodcast@gmail.com. You can find Half and Half Streams Media, Twitter, Twitch, YouTube, everywhere. KDizzleDC, everywhere. Everywhere. We will see you guys in 2 weeks, man.
Put the merch
up. Oh, you want to put the merch up? You want a fresh hat? You want to be like have streams right there? You can get the All ADU podcast snapback. Hit the QR code. We getting Chat GT to put our stuff together. But look, we love y'all. We thank y'all, and we appreciate y'all. We would be nowhere without you. And make sure you like, share, comment, subscribe. We appreciate y'all. See y'all next week. 2 weeks.
You know, and I know, and they know, cause we know, we go all in, you know, and I know, they know, cause we know, we go all